As we move closer to Election Day, candidates in key races make their pitch to win your vote.
This is truly a people-powered movement to take on this broken, corrupt political system.
They want to know that they're sending someone who's not only a fighter and has the ability to add a little spice in DC, but also understands their struggles.
New polling is giving us a snapshot of where the biggest statewide races stand. We break down the numbers and look at how Texans' views of Donald Trump could shape these races. Early voting in Texas is smashing recent primary records. We look at new efforts to increase turnout and what it could mean for both parties in this crucial election year. A surge in ICE detentions is affecting immigrant families and schools in Texas.
And what's happening is these kids are, the collateral damage.
Our investigation reveals the human cost behind the numbers.
Produced from the Capitol in Austin and airing statewide, this is the award-winning State of Texas.
Hello and thank you for joining us. I'm Josh Hinkle. Tuesday is one of the most important days of the year in Texas politics. That's when voters will decide who will appear on the November ballot, or in many cases, who makes it to the May runoff. For months, we've been tracking the race at the top of Texans' ballots, the campaign for U.S. Senate. Incumbent Republican John Cornyn faces a stiff challenge in the primary from Attorney General Ken Paxton and Congressman Wesley Hunt. For the Democrats, the ballot features Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett against State Representative James Talarico. That matchup is getting nationwide attention, and it's fueling record-breaking voter turnout here in Texas. New polling could give us an indication of how close these races are, and for insight, we bring in James Henson, director of the Texas Politics Project at the University of Texas. Welcome.
Great to be back, Josh.
Thank you for joining us. So you just released a poll in the race for Senate, and your numbers show a wide lead for Jasmine Crockett over James Talarico. That seems surprising to a lot of people. A lot of people expect a closer race.
Yeah, I think that there's a couple things going on here. Once, and I know that Talarico campaign released some other polling, a campaign poll. Not going to release a campaign poll that's not in their interest. But I would say this: I'd remind your viewers that this poll was in the field February 2nd to the 16th. That was right before whatever you want to call l'affaire Colbert really drove a lot of interest and additional interest in James Talarico. He was a state legislator. Jasmine Crockett, much more well known. So the Talarico campaign has had two things to do, and frankly, overall, they've done a pretty good job to be this competitive. One is to introduce James Talarico to a lot of people that had no idea who he was, and then to persuade them to vote for him. He's been pushing that rock up a hill. I think they've made progress. I just think he was still in the course of making that progress when we were in the field collecting this data.
So on the Republican side, conventional wisdom has been predicting a runoff between Ken Paxton and John Cornyn. Is that still the case from your numbers?
Yeah, I think probably one of the few sure bets in this primary cycle in Texas is that race is going into a runoff. We found that race a little bit closer than it's been at various times, or it seemed anyway. We had Paxton with 36%, John Cornyn with 34%, and then Wesley Hunt at 26%, which is interesting. That race is being propelled in part by the fact that there's about a quarter of Republicans in any individual question, they're not the same quarter, that really don't like the other candidates. So you got about a big chunk of Paxton supporters that really don't like John Cornyn, a big chunk of John Cornyn voters really don't like Ken Paxton. That created sort of the opportunity and the rationale for the Wesley Hunt candidacy in a lot of ways.
Well, shifting gear, your poll also asked Texas voters about their opinions on President Trump and his policies. The president, of course, visited Corpus Christi on Friday, and a lot of candidates on the ballot want to tie themselves to Trump. What does your poll say about how voters view the president right now?
Yeah, good beach weather to be in Corpus for the president. Yeah, look, the president's numbers have suffered a bit in Texas, just like they've suffered in the rest of the country as his presidency is sort of unwound. But he still enjoys a great deal of support here, but it's mainly among Republicans. So he's underwater overall, 45 approve, 49 disapprove, but very lopsided support among Republicans, about 81%. Republicans approve of the job he's doing. Highest Republican official, rating of Republican officials in Texas, much lower, as you might imagine, 11% among Democrats, 19% among independents. But I would say that it is interesting to see that President Trump's rating, even among Republicans, is down 11 points from a year ago. So he's gone from 92 during his honeymoon period, right after he was inaugurated, February of 2025, down to 81 among Republicans now. So he's cooled off, but still undoubtedly the Republican voice in the state. There's no two ways about that.
Yeah, very high. Before the before the visit, the president's team told us that he would focus on the economy and quote his drill baby drill agenda. What does your poll say when it comes to how voters feel about how he's handling the economy?
Well, on one hand, his ratings of the economy, how he's handled the economy itself, are not one of his strong points. Not that far off of his overall approval. He's at 41 approved, 49 disapprove on the economy specifically. But one thing that's interesting about that is his rating among Republicans is actually a little bit lower. Said his overall rating's at 81. He's at about 75 on the economy. Not terrible. We know that as far as drill baby drill goes, we've been asking Texans in this poll for about a year and a half what areas of the economy they were most concerned about. As we were talking with people in the studio beforehand, gas prices have not been that high, as the president keeps saying. Only 38% are very concerned about the price of gas and fuel. By contrast, 66% are very concerned about health care. So people's economic concerns are very acute right now, but it's not really in energy prices, it's in other prices of living, like just the prices of goods and services, price of housing, and again, top of the list for 2 polls in a row, price of health care.
All right, James Henson from the Texas Politics Project. Thank you once again for joining us.
Great to be with you, Josh.
A surge in early voting across Texas could reshape the March primary. We look at what's driving the spike and what turnout trends reveal about Texas politics. Teacher misconduct investigations now with a new state watchdog. We get answers in our one-on-one interview about accountability and what it means for schools in Texas. Students taken into custody, families separated, and more minors detained than before. Schools are seeing the impact of immigration enforcement. Our team breaks down the data.